These photos look like they were taken just yesterday, but they actually record 80 years ago, one of the darkest periods in human history. When black and white images become color, we truly see the cruelty of war, the struggles of humanity, and the price of peace. Today, I'll take you back to the scenes of World War II and through a colorful lens, revisit those authentic moments lost to history. In 1940, in the war-torn land of Britain, a town was devastated by the ruthless war. Amidst the ruins, a little girl sat alone on a broken wooden beam. Her eyes were full of fear and confusion, and she held the doll tightly in her arms, as if it was her only comfort in this cruel world. In the autumn of 1942, in the center of Stalingrad, a German soldier was busy hanging a Nazi flag on a building. At that time, the Battle of Stalingrad was in full swing, and the city became the focus of fierce competition between the two sides. Around the building where the soldiers were, traces of war were everywhere, and the broken walls were filled with tension and murderous atmosphere. The Nazi flag fluttered over this war-torn land, demonstrating the temporary situation of the German army on the battlefield at that time, and also foreshadowing that the next, more brutal battle was about to begin, and this battle would become one of the decisive turning points in World War II. As the dictator of Nazi Germany, Adolf Hitler's anti-Semitic rhetoric and policies triggered a series of atrocities against Jews and other marginalized groups. These atrocities included mass murder, persecution, and discrimination, which brought great pain and disaster to countless families. Hitler's extreme thoughts and actions left an extremely dark page in history, reminding people to be vigilant against the dangers of extremism and hate speech. The Tuskegee Airmen are a very important group in American history. They bravely served their country during World War II, despite facing racial segregation and discrimination. These pilots received professional flight training and performed well in combat, proving their ability and courage. The Tuskegee Airmen not only achieved significant military success, but also paved the way for the subsequent civil rights movement. Their success challenged the prevalent racial prejudice at the time and made important contributions to the progress and equality of American society. The Normandy beach in France, which once witnessed fierce landing operations, is now in ruins. Several Allied soldiers are on the beach, looking solemn and focused on salvaging the bodies of the dead. The waves are beating against the shore, as if mourning for the lives lost. The cruelty of this battle is fully revealed at this moment. In the eastern front of World War II, the smoke of gunpowder filled the air, and the environment was harsh. Soviet artillerymen stood firm on this land, wearing military uniforms, equipped with artillery, and ready to fight on the battlefield. With their tenacious will and excellent tactics, they continuously launched attacks on the enemy, contributing their own strength to defending the motherland and fighting against the invaders. This photo of two child prisoners in the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in Germany is heartbreaking. They huddled together, covered with a worn blanket, their faces full of fatigue and haggardness, and their bodies thin. The cruel environment of the concentration camp brought unimaginable suffering to these innocent children, which also became the most direct witness of the Nazi atrocities. In the dense smoke, a British soldier wearing a gas mask and holding a rifle marched forward resolutely. The surrounding smoke added a bit of difficulty and mystery to his progress. The gas mask covered his face, but it could not hide the determination revealed in his eyes. His figure was looming in the smoke, as if he was fighting a silent battle against the haze of war. And every step he took was on a battlefield full of danger. In the context of war, innovation and adaptability of medical methods become crucial. This member of the British Medical Service is concentrating on testing a simple device to try to solve the difficult problem of general anesthesia while the patient is wearing a gas mask. He is wearing a light-colored uniform and a gas mask, and next to him is a stone countertop with transparent glass bottles and metal devices. This test reflects the efforts made by wartime medical workers to ensure the treatment of the wounded. They are constantly exploring new medical methods under extreme conditions and strive to provide effective treatment for patients in dangerous environments. Franklin Delano Roosevelt served as the President of the United States for a long period during World War II. With his outstanding leadership, he led the United States through the difficult period of the war. At the same time, he is also the only president in American history who was successfully re-elected for 4 terms. The series of policies he implemented during his tenure had a profound impact on the United States and the world. In 1943, a fierce battle had just ended near Makin Island in the Pacific Ocean. An American F-6F aircraft failed in its attempt to attack the island, and its fuselage was severely damaged. It flew towards the USS Enterprise with difficulty, emitting thick smoke and flames. When the aircraft made an emergency landing on the flight deck of the aircraft carrier, the situation was extremely critical and could explode at any time. At this critical moment, a catapult officer reacted quickly, rushed to the aircraft without hesitation, and helped the pilot escape successfully. This thrilling scene showed the tacit understanding and responsibility between soldiers in the war and also reflected the brilliance of human nature at the critical moment of life and death. In 1941, the Warsaw Ghetto in Poland was filled with the shadow of war. The lives of these children in the photo were completely disrupted by the war. They were ragged, and their eyes revealed fear and helplessness that were not in line with their age. In the isolated world of the Jewish ghetto, they not only had to endure hunger and disease, but also face threats to their lives at all times. Their childhood should have been full of laughter and joy, but it was cast under a thick shadow by the cruel war. The desire for peace was written on every child's face, and this photo has become a powerful witness to that tragic history, constantly reminding people of the great harm that war has brought to innocent children. In April 1945, shortly after the U.S. military liberated the Thekla concentration camp outside Leipzig, Germany, a young man sat next to a charred body in this land that was once filled with terror and despair. His figure seemed particularly lonely in the empty and dilapidated concentration camp site, surrounded by barbed wire and simple wooden houses, as if silently telling the tragedy that had happened here. This scene is heartbreaking. This photo captured an 18-year-old Russian prisoner in Dachau concentration camp after the U.S. military liberated it in April 1945. He was wearing a striped prison uniform, looking thin and haggard, with dirt and scars on his face, and his blue eyes showed the complex emotions of fear, confusion, and survival. In April 1945, in the Buchenwald concentration camp in Germany, the prisoner in the photo had scars all over his face, swollen eyes, and a gaunt look. He was wrapped in simple clothes and was thin, showing the misery of being tortured. In 1940, Nazi Germany's Iron Hoof stepped into Paris, and this romantic city was instantly shrouded in a dark haze. In the photo, a French man in a blue suit can't hide his grief, with tears in his eyes. His sorrow is not only a personal emotional catharsis, but also a collective portrayal of the whole of France under the shadow of war. The expressions of the people around him are also solemn, witnessing this humiliating moment. The fall of Paris is not only a geographical occupation, but also an unhealed wound in the hearts of the French people. During World War II, in a green border area, several German soldiers and Swiss border guards gathered next to the barbed wire. The German soldiers were dressed in military uniforms and held tools, while the Swiss border guards were also dressed neatly. Their conversation was particularly special against the backdrop of the war. This photo, taken around 1940, shows a group of young girls skipping rope while wearing gas masks near the south coast of England. During World War II, Britain issued gas masks to the public in response to possible chemical weapons attacks, especially in areas vulnerable to air raids. The girls in the photo, while wearing gas masks, are still engaged in daily games and activities, reflecting the people's efforts to maintain normal life and optimism despite the threat of war. This photo shows an American machine gunner near New Guinea in July 1943. The soldier stands behind his machine gun, ready to carry out his mission. New Guinea was a major theater of the Pacific War, where Allied forces fought fierce battles against the Japanese. This photo documents the plight of a family in Tokyo, Japan, who were homeless and had to seek temporary shelter in a subway station after World War II. The destruction of the war and the subsequent socio-economic difficulties left many families facing housing shortages and a lack of living resources. This photo captures a special moment as a Japanese prisoner of war sheds tears after learning that Japan had surrendered to the Allies. This historical moment marked a key turning point in World War II and had a profound impact on soldiers and civilians from all sides. The end of the war meant that many soldiers could end their hard life on the battlefield and return home to reunite with their families. However, this news may have brought mixed emotions to the prisoners of war, including relief, sadness, loss, and uncertainty about the future. In May 1944, in the China-Burma-India war zone in Myitkyina, a 10-year-old Chinese Boy Scout stood in front of the camera. He was wearing a military uniform and a straw hat, Despite his young age, his childish face revealed a determination that was not in line with his age. He had taken on the responsibility of defending his country. Behind him were several adults in simple clothes, and their eyes were filled with helplessness about the war and a desire for peace. On August 26, 1944, the Champs-Élysées in Paris was filled with indescribable joy. The streets were crowded with jubilant people, their faces full of excitement for liberation and vision for the future. Amid deafening cheers, French tanks slowly drove past, and the steady sound of their tracks rolling over the road seemed to announce the end of the city's suffering. The Arc de Triomphe in the distance shone brightly in the sun, witnessing this historic moment. In the crowd, some people waved flags, some hugged each other, and some held high placards with "Vive de Gaulle" to express their respect and gratitude to General Charles de Gaulle. On this day, Paris was reborn, and the Champs-Élysées became a sea of joy, and everyone was enjoying the hard-won freedom and peace. Hiroshima, this once prosperous city, has been ruthlessly destroyed by the US atomic bomb. A Japanese soldier wearing a dark coat and a military cap slowly walked through the ruins. During the Blitz from 1940 to 1941, the German bombing reduced East London to ruins. In the photo, several children are sitting in their former homes, which are now ruins. Their faces are full of confusion and helplessness, and their eyes reveal the fear of war and confusion about the future. In the surrounding rubble, you can still vaguely recognize the furniture and daily necessities of the past, which silently tell of the happy life they once had. Maria Ivanovna Dolina, the brave and fearless Soviet female pilot, wore a military uniform with many medals and had a confident and bright smile on her face. The medals shone on her chest, and each one carried the story of her heroic struggle in the sky. In a ward of a military camp hospital, an injured American soldier was lying on a bed with a plaster cast on his leg, surrounded by several comrades. At this time, the famous actress Marlene Dietrich, dressed in blue, walked to the soldier's bedside elegantly and kindly. She picked up a pen, leaned over, and signed the soldier's plaster carefully. Her action not only showed her care for the injured soldier, but also brought a special warmth to the ward. On a battlefield in France, the smoke of gunpowder has not yet completely dissipated, and the ground is devastated. 2 French medical staff, wearing uniforms with the Red Cross logo and helmets, are trying their best to rescue a wounded soldier, trying to give the soldier more hope of life. The wounded soldier lies on the ground, his face full of pain, but also reveals a little persistence in life. Weapons, equipment, and sundries are scattered around, silently telling the fierceness and cruelty of the battle. In an open outdoor area, a woman is concentrating on trying out an American M3 grease gun. She holds the M3 grease gun firmly with both hands, and her eyes are focused through the aiming device. There are a lot of bullet shells scattered on the ground, indicating the frequent shooting during the trial. In the war years, such scenes may be to familiarize the people with the operation of weapons in order to deal with possible crises, and also show a state of national preparation for war at that time. American soldier Paul Edward Eisen demonstrated extraordinary courage and determination during the Battle of Okinawa on May 10, 1945. In this historic photo, he is wearing a standard military uniform, a steel helmet, a rifle on his shoulder, and a heavy backpack on his back, moving quickly across the battlefield. During World War II, a military plane was flying over the majestic pyramids in the vast Egyptian desert. The ancient pyramids stood tall in the desert, having gone through thousands of years of baptism and witnessed the vicissitudes of history. The appearance of this military plane added a touch of modern warfare to this ancient land. On a lawn in Warsaw, 12-year-old Polish girl Kazimierza Miko was crying for her 14-year-old sister Anja. Not long ago, a German air raid mercilessly took Anja's life. At this moment, Anja was lying on the grass, her body covered with blood, and her once vibrant life had now turned cold. Kazimierza knelt beside her sister, her outstretched hands trembling, her face full of incredible sadness and helplessness. The smoke of World War II filled the air, and the whole world was shrouded in the dark clouds of war. At that time, Princess Elizabeth resolutely stepped out of the royal family and devoted herself to serving the country. She stood tall in front of a military green medical vehicle painted with the Red Cross logo, which carried the mission of rescuing the wounded and delivering hope. In 1944, a year fraught with darkness and sorrow, the small French town of Oradour-Glane suffered a brutal massacre at the hands of the Nazis, with 642 lives lost in the merciless fighting and slaughter. Roger Godefring was one of the survivors of this massacre. He stood quietly amid the ruins, the shattered walls and broken masonry behind him bearing witness to the town's destruction. During the turbulent years of World War II, in the clear blue sky, several Royal Navy planes were flying in a neat formation. The fuselage showed a calm tone, and the numbers and logos on it were clearly visible, highlighting their identity and mission. These planes carried the heavy responsibility of defending the airspace and attacking the enemy. They were the extension of maritime power to the sky. In a public place in France, a tense and oppressive atmosphere permeated. A woman in a flowery dress sat on a bench with a complicated expression, perhaps with fear, grievance, and helplessness in her eyes. Several members of the French resistance surrounded her, and one of them was cutting her hair. In France at that time, having an intimate relationship with a German soldier was regarded as an act of betrayal and would be despised and punished by the public. During World War II, France fell under the iron hoof of the Nazis. Countless patriots rose up to resist. Simone Seguin was one of the admirable young fighters. In the photo, Simone is young but exudes fearless heroism. In those dark years, Simone bravely shuttled through the hail of bullets, delivered important intelligence to the resistance organization, and assisted in armed operations. In 1944, during the war-torn years of World War II, American soldiers welcomed a rare period of peace. In the photo, several soldiers are in a simple place. Their faces and bodies are covered with stains and traces of battle, showing the cruelty and exhaustion of war. They sit around a table, holding cups in their hands, and seem to be sipping something. Their eyes reveal their cherishment of the current peace, as well as their helplessness and weariness of war. On November 28, 1943, Tehran, Iran witnessed a historic moment where the leaders of the Soviet Union, the United States, and the United Kingdom gathered. From left to right, Soviet leader Joseph Stalin was dressed in military uniform, calm and solemn. U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt was dressed in a dark suit, elegant and generous. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill was dressed in a naval uniform, full of majesty. They sat in chairs, looking serious and focused, and seemed to be having an in-depth discussion on major issues concerning the fate of the world. This Tehran conference had a profound impact on the course of World War II. The meeting of the three leaders also became an important moment in world history, laying a solid foundation for the coordinated operations of the anti-fascist alliance. American soldiers in the forests of the Solomon Islands in 1944, during a mission as part of the Pacific Theater of Operation Solomon Islands, a series of battles in the Pacific Theater of World War II, in which Allied forces fought fiercely against the Imperial Japanese Army. In 1945, as the news of the end of World War II spread throughout New York, Times Square was instantly boiling. In the crowd, a member of the U.S. Navy could not hide his excitement, and he hugged the woman next to him and kissed her passionately. Later, it was called the Victory Kiss, which not only recorded the personal emotions of that historic moment, but also reflected the collective celebration of the end of the war by the entire country and even the world. June 6, 1944 is the famous Normandy landing day, also known as D-Day, which is destined to be recorded in history. On this day, the Allies launched a large-scale amphibious landing operation against the German army in the Normandy region of France. This was the largest sea landing operation in World War II, marking the beginning of the Allied counterattack in the European battlefield. On the morning of December 7, 1941, the tranquility of Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, was shattered by the piercing sound of air raid sirens. The Japanese Navy launched a sudden attack, and in an instant, Pearl Harbor was engulfed in flames. In the photograph, the battleship Arizona, engulfed in flames under the fierce Japanese bombardment, billowing smoke obscured the sky, like a vast black cloud looming over the battleship. The hull tilted, parts of its structure warped and deformed, as this monumental vessel, a symbol of American naval might, suffered a devastating blow. This sudden attack left the United States completely unprepared, inflicting heavy damage, resulting in countless casualties and the destruction of numerous ships. The burning of the Arizona became the most horrific scene of the Pearl Harbor attack, and it forever altered the United States' role in World War II, forcing it into full-scale involvement. In 1938, after the Munich Agreement, Nazi Germany occupied the Sudetenland without firing a single shot. In the photo, residents of a small town stand in the street, their reactions varying. Some smile, hands raised high, as if welcoming the arrival of the Nazi army, perhaps misled by Nazi propaganda and harboring unrealistic fantasies about the future. Others, however, are filled with sorrow and helplessness. One woman cries, her hands covering her eyes. She is fully aware of the potential for untold devastation in her life, yet she feels powerless to change the status quo. 4 female pilots of the U.S. Air Force bravely took to the skies, undertaking various tasks such as transportation and training. With their professional skills and fearless courage, they made an indispensable contribution to the U.S. Air Force in World War II.